The movie opens with a chilling scene where a band of ISIS militants are preparing to carry out the execution of a woman. This woman, a journalist, had been taken captive by ISIS due to her courageous efforts in reporting their horrific acts against innocent civilians. The militants intend to film her execution and broadcast it globally as a stern warning to others. However, unbeknownst to them, a team of 7 Turkish Special Forces operatives are covertly present at the scene. They have blended in with the civilian population and are biding their time. In the meantime, a sharpshooter is concealed within an aged structure, poised to take a shot from afar. As the militant is on the verge of executing the journalist, the sniper takes a precise shot, hitting him squarely in the head. Swiftly following this, the rest of the Special Forces team incapacitate the remaining terrorists and manage to save the journalist. They confirm the demise of the terrorists and proceed to destroy the camera, ensuring no footage can be recovered. The girl they rescued, Seda, is a Turkish journalist who had been captured by ISIS while reporting at the Iraq-Turkey border. Since she is a Turkish citizen, that's why the government sent these elite forces to rescue her. Their mission is to clandestinely bring Seda back to Turkey. Seda questions why they chose to rescue her instead of focusing on the multitude of others in need. Bakir responds by emphasizing her status as a Turkish citizen, while Seda argues that nationality shouldn't dictate priority in saving lives. She believes that it is the duty of any army to protect people, regardless of borders. However, the colonels are unmoved by her perspective. Despite Seda's reluctance to leave by herself, the team asserts their authority, surrounding her with Bakir and Oguz positioned as her protectors. Bakir and Oguz were close friends and former non-commissioned officers. They were offered positions in a special forces unit due to their dedication and sacrifice. However, Bakir had previously suffered a leg injury, and Oguz had a steel implant in his shoulder from a previous mission. Some officers doubted their suitability for the job, fearing it would endanger the rest of the team. Colonel Vasil intervened and expressed his belief that he would have made the same sacrifices if he were in their position. Bakir and Oguz were determined to prove themselves and honor their fallen commander, Kamal. Colonel Vasil granted them an opportunity, warning them that the training would be exceptionally rigorous and demanding. Out of 200 soldiers, only 20 were selected for the force. The colonel emphasized that joining the unit was not about gaining personal recognition or fame. The colonel chooses Bakir and Oguz from a group of 20 for a challenging training program. Despite Bakir's significant leg injury, the commander demands his participation, disregarding his pain. The commander threatens Bakir with the life of his friend Oguz if he fails to return within a minute, pushing him to his limits. This marks the beginning of their intense training. Later, they are subjected to a test where a sponge is kept in water overnight, and if a drop is visible in the morning, they are dismissed. They endure a harsh night with their hands bound and thrown into the water, pushing their limits. The most challenging test involves fasting for 4 days, with the promise of a feast for those who surrender information. This rigorous training is designed to test their endurance and resilience in extreme situations. The officers resort to water and towel torture. When Bakir is subjected to this, he resists revealing his name, even under increased torture. Eventually, he starts singing songs and endures the ordeal with patience. The colonel admires Bakir's resilience, comparing him to a fiery diamond in their team. On the battlefield, they encounter numerous fresh corpses, causing Seda great distress. Arif warns of an approaching ISIS force, prompting the colonel to strategize. He leaves a decoy radio signal and retreats, ordering a fire upon the ISIS group when they arrive. 3 tanks fire simultaneously, decimating the terrorist group. 2 enemy soldiers survive, but Arif swiftly eliminates them with precise sniper shots. After witnessing an attack, the colonel realizes a significant ISIS force is approaching and contacts headquarters. They're instructed to return to their area due to a crisis in the North State. The team then encounters a war zone rigged with explosives. They launch a silent attack, and the colonel works to defuse a time bomb while the rest continue to fight. Oguz is attacked but saved by SRF, allowing them to defuse the bomb quickly. The next morning, Oguz teaches Seda to shoot. When asked about his feelings when killing, Oguz explains it leaves a mental scar. They then find a survivor and witness a girl being tortured by terrorists. Despite it not being their mission, they can't ignore the horrific scene and decide to intervene, despite being surrounded by snipers. In a tense situation, terrorists threaten a girl with fire. Colonel orders his team to attack, and Arif, a skilled soldier, takes out a terrorist with a headshot. The team then begins their assault from all sides. Amidst the chaos, a sniper injures Bakir. Oguz orders everyone to take cover while Arif locates the sniper. Just as the sniper targets Arif, he manages to shield himself and Seda. Arif then eliminates the sniper before he can fire again. After the threat is neutralized, the colonel rescues the frightened girl, who is relieved to see the soldiers and expresses her gratitude. The colonel, reminded of his deceased daughter by the girl's prayer, sees a reflection of his daughter in her. The colonel approaches a dying man, a former member of the Gervani military force, who has been severely injured by terrorists. terrorists. Despite the colonel's attempts to ease his pain with morphine, the man requests to be relieved of his suffering. Respecting his wishes, the colonel ends his life. The team regroups and heads towards the landing point near the border, where they expect a helicopter for extraction. Along the way, the colonel tries to communicate with a traumatized girl, but she remains silent. They reach a small village, Charticle 1. Seda questions the colonel about Turkey's lack of aid to Iraq. Despite their advantageous position, the colonel acknowledges the moral argument but notes the complexities of the situation. They decide to stay in the village overnight and provide shelter in the morning. The team enters the village cautiously due to its uncertain status. They find it populated by homeless individuals, including a young girl who is a resident. The village elder welcomes the Turkish army and offers them food. The team decides to rest. The colonel learns that a villager named Boran, a former soldier, is critically injured from a gunshot wound. The team receives a warning from headquarters about an impending attack by 100 ISIS members on the village. They are advised to leave before the assault. The colonel's soldiers suggest they protect the villagers, but the colonel believes their small team can't face the large number of terrorists. Seda criticizes the colonel, calling him a coward for not defending the helpless villagers. She declares her intention to stay and fight. The colonel asks Oguz for his opinion, who agrees with Seda that they can't abandon the villagers. The colonel commends Oguz, predicting he will become a great officer one day. The following morning, a helicopter arrives to evacuate the village children, including Seda, who is reluctant to leave. The colonel persuades her to go, asking her to keep their experiences confidential. He gives her a letter to open upon reaching Turkey. After the helicopter departs, the colonel informs headquarters that his team has decided to stay and protect the village. The team then strategizes on how to outsmart the large group of terrorists with their limited resources. Acknowledging the gravity of their situation, the colonel distributes 4 magazines of bullets to each team member, acknowledging their limited ammunition supply. Baybars proposes creating a bomb from his heavy machine gun ammunition and mentions their 2 rocket launchers for emergencies. Arif, the sniper, is positioned at a mosque minaret, reflecting on his role as a defender rather than a worshipper. The colonel strategizes, assigning different zones to each member to ensure all sides are covered. He instructs the villagers to seek shelter in a bunker and not to open the door until they return. Boran and a girl volunteer to join the fight, despite the colonel's initial reluctance. The girl is assigned to bring ammunition, while Boran is instructed to hide with an AK-47. As they prepare for the arrival of terrorists, Arif signals that they've arrived. They were expecting 100, but over 200 showed up, equipped with a high-tech American tank, Abrams. Despite the overwhelming odds, the colonel rallies his troops, insisting they can't retreat and must fight with courage and faith. They plan to win the war and return home. The colonel waits for the terrorists to reach their mine, at which point he uses a remote to trigger an explosion, decimating the terrorist team. Arif is busy taking out snipers but misses a shot at the tank's driver. Meanwhile, the colonel and Oguz are fighting on the front line, but they can't halt the tank and are forced to retreat to the village. The Babers, armed with heavy machine guns, mow down anyone in their path. Boran tries to counter them with his AK-47, but his gun jams and he is attacked. Ashraf intervenes and saves him. As the tank enters the village, the colonel summons Baybars with a small rocket launcher. At this point, the girl arrives with additional ammunition and rocket launchers, braving a hail of bullets. Arif provides cover from above. The tank crew realizes the sniper in the mosque is causing significant damage, so they target and destroy the mosque. Oguz and Bakir manage to destroy the Abrams tank with a rocket launcher. Despite being injured, Arif continues to provide sniper cover. The colonel is pinned down, and Mustafa offers to provide cover, knowing it will cost him his life. He tells the colonel that he's willing to die for a hero, referring to the colonel. After bidding Mustafa farewell, the colonel witnesses Baybar skillfully deflecting a grenade attack from the enemy. Mustafa is surrounded and captured by terrorists. Despite Arif's attempt to help, Mustafa insists he doesn't shoot and hands him a grenade, asking him to look after his son. He sacrifices himself with the grenade, leaving the team devastated. However, the war isn't over, and they continue to fight. During an attack, Esref is severely injured by a sniper. He urges Arif not to come to his aid and instead use him as a shield. Seeing no other option, Arif complies and uses Esref as a backup sniper. Guided by Esref, Arif takes a shot and takes out a terrorist sniper. Following the loss of 2 team members, the remaining soldiers are down to their last magazine of ammunition, with 30 to 40 terrorists still in their vicinity. Despite the odds, they continue to fight. The colonel spots a suicide bomber approaching, but his last bullet is intercepted by another terrorist. With no other options, the colonel attempts to disarm the bomber but is shot from behind. Oguz, Bakir, Arif, and Boran eliminate the remaining terrorists and rush to aid the colonel. Realizing his end is near, the colonel urges them to remember their fallen comrades and assures them of the nation's support. He expresses his peace in knowing they've protected the village. With that, Colonel Vasil succumbs to his injuries, joining Mustafa and Isref in death. Their sacrifice is honored by all. The warriors sacrificed much for a greater cause. A flashback reveals the mission was to rescue a journalist who was against the army. Despite her disdain for them, the colonel insists on protecting her, emphasizing their duty to safeguard the Turkish people. After returning to Turkey, Seda reads a letter from the colonel, who likens her to his daughter for her stand against injustice. This moves Seda to tears. The scene shifts to 3 helicopters arriving to rescue the elite force, Strombringers. The villagers celebrate their victory, treating the soldiers as heroes. As they prepare to return home, the movie concludes. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.